What's going on, guys? This is LSU Recruiting HQ. I'm your host, Michael Sedetol. What is going on, guys? It is September 27th, 2023. Hope you guys are having a blessed day today. We got a huge topic, man. Something that everybody kind of has been talking about or wants to talk about or, heck, wants to know why or what has happened. And that is LSU and DBU, where that correlation lies and where it is today. Like, it's been a struggle, guys. Like, you go out there and you look at these guys that LSU is putting out for defensive backs the last couple years. I'm not going to fault the players. I'm not going to fault coaching, but it's been a whole lump sum of different events that have happened, right? You've had several coaching changes. You have guys leave for different jobs. You've had position coaches leave. You've had players leave because of the coaching changes. So all that's factored in, plus some recruiting tidbits, maybe missing out on a couple guys here and there that really put you back in the process, right, to where now you're having to go get transfer portal guys. And even if they are good at that position, right, they're here for 1 year, maybe 2 years. But it's been a while, man, since LSU has been able to call themselves DBU. I know this year specifically, LSU has done a bad job of covering elite receivers, which never used to be the case. They're getting better and better every week as a unit defensively, but we're going to kind of break it all down here and see how all of this thing came into action, right? So, to start off, we got to go back in the day, man. What LSU was and what DBU was to LSU fans. It all started in the Les Miles era. Really getting that DBU stamp, right? There had been guys before, but really, for me personally, it wasn't until Patrick Peterson came on the scene there in 2008, wearing the number 7 jersey, kind of created that legacy of what you see at LSU today with the number 7 jersey. Patrick Peterson was a 2-time All-American corner, just shut the whole field down, first-round pick. And then after him, you get guys like Mo Claiborne, you get Tyrann Mathieu coming through here, Thurl Simon. I'm going to leave names off, guys. Forgive me. I'm just here to kind of give you a broader picture of everything. And then you go into the late 2010s era. You get guys like Jamal Adams, Tre'Davious White, guys that you see in the NFL still today putting up crazy numbers. And where that kind of led to transitioning into the Coach O era, he kind of took over that role of some of those guys, and he started recruiting at an elite level as well. You bring in guys like Derek Stingley, the number 1 player in Louisiana, one of the top 10 prospects in all of the United States, comes in, is a freshman phenomenon, wins a national championship, and everybody's thinking, like, this is it. Like, this is what LSU does. LSU just produces DBU. That 2019 season, DBU was at its highest point. LSU's winning natties. You got guys like Christian Fulton coming in here, making waves as that secondary corner. Grant Delpit wins the Thorpe Award. And you have a guy like Stingley who's going to, he's only a true freshman, so you're thinking he's going to be there for 3 years and carry on that legacy. And then in the 2020 recruiting class, you sign Elias Ricks, a 5-star top 20 player in the country, one of the most talented DBs in the class. And he comes in, shows off his star power. Although the numbers weren't there as a whole on defense that 2020 season, the bright spots of that team was Elias Ricks and his ability to cover receivers and get interceptions and turn the ball over and create plays. And then things kind of take a turn for the worse, right? Everybody kind of remembers that 2021 season. I remember very vividly. You have the UCLA game, tons of hype. 2020 is a fluke year, COVID year. The Tigers are going to get back right. Coach O's kind of, made some coaching changes and fixed things. You still have Elias Ricks. You still have Derek Stingley. And then everything kind of falls flat on its face. And that UCLA game in 2021, making the trip out to Los Angeles, that was sort of the beginning of the end of DBU as we know it, or what we knew it as. Because that game, Derek Stingley gets injured. The next game, I don't remember the opponent. It was an in-state FCS school. He gets injured making a tackle. He's out the entire year. And then in the Kentucky game later on that season, Elias Ricks injures his shoulder, and he is out for the rest of the year. And you actually see a guy like Dwight McLaughlin, who comes in, plays a tremendous amount of minutes, and shows off the talent that he is. And then it just like kind of unravels, right? You lose Stingley, you lose Ricks, and then the season goes as it goes. You end up firing Coach O. You end up with Brian Kelly having to re-recruit this roster, and then those three corners that we just talked about. Stingley goes top 10 in the draft to Houston. Even after the injury, combine numbers were amazing. Elias Ricks transfers to Alabama. Dwight McLaughlin transfers to Arkansas. And your DB room is left dry. So Brian Kelly shows up. The cupboard is as bare as it's probably ever been in the history of LSU in the last 20, 25 years. And he was just left with guys. So you saw him hit the transfer portal, and that's kind of where things have taken its turn the last couple years, right? You go out and get Bernard Converse last year and your number one guy. You go out there and you get a bunch of portal guys, and just things kind of just never really gel then, right? You had guys that showed flashes and played sparingly well in their positions, but as far as continuing that legacy, you're not back to that level yet, right? You have guys on your roster that are plenty capable of playing the position. You have, guys that are leaving after 1 year and having to do the same exact thing over and over again. Until you get the recruiting right, you're going to have to continuously go in there and get transfer portal guys, and that's what LSU has been left with the last 2 years. Going in the portal, going to get these guys. This year, going to get guys like Deuce Chestnut, who hasn't really lived up to expectations, hasn't seen the field much. You go get guys like Zyle Alexander that I really like, and that's going to come along. You got to realize, like, this is this guy's, first season playing Power 5 football in the best conference in America. You have guys like Andre Sam. Obviously, everybody knows the frustrations and pain that everybody's going through with Greg Brooks, but he was in that secondary as well. He was a great player for you. Then on the other end, you have guys like Denver Harris who are coming in, the most highly touted guy out of high school by far. You have a guy like J.K. Johnson coming in from Ohio State who gets injured in preseason. And so you're kind of left with what you're left with. I think personally that LSU is going to just continue to get better, kind of like what you saw last year, where the defense just progressively got better as the year goes on. Now, whether that hands them a couple early season losses, that's to be determined. But the real way LSU has to fix this problem is recruiting. Obviously, everybody knows about last year's recruiting cycle. You miss on a guy like Desmond Ricks, one of the most talented corners in the entire country. He ends up choosing Alabama on the last day. LSU felt pretty good about where they stood with him, but it's going to take getting guys like that, guys that are in the top 50, top 45, top 20, 5-star corners again. That's what it's going to take. And the correlation a lot of people like to bring up is Corey Raymond over there at Florida now. He's the godfather of DBU. Now, whether that's the reason why LSU hasn't been performing, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of the team. I don't know how all that stuff played out. I don't know why what was said, but it's hard for me to believe that Brian Kelly didn't even give Corey Raymond a thought, after what he's done for LSU, what he's done with DBs and producing them into the NFL. I think that could go back, if they don't get this thing right, I think that could go back in being one of the most influential hires or non-hires that LSU's ever made, right? because you see Florida in their recruiting, they have a top 3 class right now, and several solid DBs committed. You see that Florida defense playing super well as a unit. Obviously, Corey Raymond could have just wanted new things. Like I said, I don't know the inner workings of how all that stuff worked out. I can just go off of what I've heard. And that was Corey Raymond really wasn't given a shot to get this job back at LSU. And they just kind of went their separate ways, which personally I think was a mistake. I'm not saying Kerry Cooks is a bad coach by any means, and I'm not saying the DBs that LSU has are bad. I'm just saying that they're having to work a lot harder to get the results that they were getting several years ago. And it all starts with the recruiting class. Now, I think Brian Kelly and Kerry Cooks are on the right track. You have a guy like Kai Bates coming in, who's a top 100 player. You have a guy like Deshaun McBride, who's the top 5 player in the state, a top 100 player at safety coming in. You have guys like that coming in this year, which is huge. Guys like Joel Rogers, I think I'm very high on Andre Evans out of Tennessee, who's really good as well at the corner position. But you're just not seeing LSU making that big splash like they used to when they used to come to recruiting DBs. Do I think that's going to change? Absolutely, man. I trust Brian Kelly. I trust the process. And I think he knows what this team needs and how to get it to that point. Hopefully you see guys like Denver Harris and guys like J.K. Johnson stick around a little bit and kind of build up that room again. I like what I see from guys like LaTerrence Welch, a freshman coming in, could give you solid time out there, but only time will tell. That's all I got for today, guys. Man, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. All it does is help us out. Hey, man, and it gets you guys the content that you all want and desire, man. We'll be breaking down the Ole Miss game soon. I hope to see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week.